Hello, welcome to episode 6 of the Loud and Quiet podcast, Midnight Chats. This week, I did something a little different with the podcast. I took the microphone on the road for the first time, and I travelled to Bury St Edmunds, which is in Suffolk, it turns out. And the reason I went there is because it's the hometown of Kate Jackson, previously of the Long Blondes, which may surprise you. You may well think, hang on, she's from Sheffield. The Long Blondes very much were from Sheffield, and Sheffield is a place that she holds dear still now. And we talk a bit about that in this podcast, but it's not where she's from. She's from Bury St Edmunds, and having lived in a number of places, she has moved back there. So I went there and we had a lovely conversation and a cup of tea in a very dark band rehearsal room, the classic band rehearsal room vibe. If you've been to one, you'll know exactly what I mean. A windowless room with creaky, the odd chair in the corner, and mic stands that are a bit wobbly, and kind of cloth curtains hanging off the wall. It was glamorous stuff. It was a glamorous place to be, and I don't feel like I really experienced the true beauty of Bury St Edmunds whilst in this room. But never mind. That wasn't why I was there. I was there on business. And the reason I'm talking to Kate is not because the Long Blondes are getting back together. I'm sorry to disappoint any fans out there that are still hoping for that to happen. That is not going to happen. We talk about that a bit in this podcast. But she has finally put together a debut album after kind of quitting music for a while. A new record is called British Road Movies. And she's made it with Bernard Butler of Suede. So we talk a bit about that. But in the interim period, I mean, the Long Blondes split up in 2008. And they actually released that debut album 10 years ago this year. So, but in that period of time, not to be too much of a spoiler on it, Kate moved to Rome and got back into art, which was always her first love. So we have a little bit of a chat about that as well. On my drive to Bury St Edmunds, I listened to British Road Movies, and I can confirm that it does work on the road, and it's out on the 20th of May. So yeah, this is episode 6 of the podcast. We are after this podcast, we're going to take a short break from Midnight Chats, not because we're not loving it, just to kind of assess it a bit, kind of have a little think about what we could do better. I'm sure there's a lot, and plan who we're going to interview for the next kind of round of interviews. I mean, this bit at the beginning is a bit weird, isn't it? Because there's not been any music. I think maybe we need to put the music at the front. If you do have any suggestions along those lines, please do let us know. We are welcoming of any criticism of this podcast. But hopefully you will have enjoyed these first 6 episodes, and there will be more. So if you are a fan, don't fear. So I'm going to leave you with this chat that I had with Kate Jackson, who it turns out isn't the Ice Queen that she presented in the Long Blondes. That was all a bit of an act. Turns out she's very nice indeed. Jackson, welcome to Midnight Chats, the Loud and Quiet podcast. Well, really, I suppose you're welcoming me because
I'm welcoming you
to
my lair.
We are in a rehearsal room in Bury St Edmunds, your hometown.
My hometown.
Where you now live again.
Yeah, after many years.
I'm on a very creaky...
It's a drum stool.
I'm
on the piano stool.
You're on the piano
Stu's
stool.
on the drum stool.
We're leaning
against the piano.
Leaning against the piano.
A bit like Jules Holland, this, isn't it?
This is like one of those Jules chats.
I will not be doing any boogie-woogie piano.
Did you watch... Jules Holland was on last night. Did
I
you
missed
see
it last night. No, I was out.
I've actually not watched it for a long time, but there was a Prince tribute at the end
amazing.
where they all sang Purple Rain.
Oh, who
going
was
round.
on it?
Who was on it? I should know this because I did watch it. There was...
That can't have been that good.
Christina and the Queens.
Okay.
I recognised her. Oh, Mumford and Sons and the very best. Yeah.
Sorry.
And, you know, some very Julesy stuff that I had no idea what it was.
It's always the way.
Yeah, I'm sure there was probably someone huge on there that I didn't notice. But he kind of, what was quite awkward was they did this, it was lovely, you know, they're all singing Purple Rain, that's lovely. And then Jules kind of, you know, normally he, over that last song, whoever's playing out, he walks around and, you know, he gestures and says,
and claps.
Foals, and everyone claps. And then Mumford and Sons, and everyone claps. But he didn't want to say anything, so he just kind of was creeping around. It was all a bit weird.
He's a little bit creepy.
He's a little bit creepy. Have you met him?
No.
Did you not play Jules back in the day?
We never did, Jules, no.
This time round.
You never know.
Perhaps. So this room you were just saying is where you have all the
This
parties.
this is the band practice space, but it's really the party room. We have secret parties in here quite often. And you'll have to visualise this because it's a podcast, but it's a box room with no windows and grey walls and soundproof, nasty khaki curtains around the place, and then some strip lighting on the ceiling. So we just turn all the horrible lights off and set the band up in the far corner and cram. Try and get about 150 people in here, and it turns into a little sweatbox, so it's great.
It is a classic band rehearsal room. So if you're listening and you've been in a band rehearsal room,
if you're listening and you want
that.
to come and practice with your band in Bury St Edmunds, come to the rehearsal rooms.
Good plug.
There you go.
Good plug. We should put a link up under this.
Definitely, Ken will be so happy.
So this is where you grew up. This is your hometown.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like growing up here? Because it's quite a quaint, nice place.
It's beautiful, and growing up here was obviously lovely, but I just wanted to get away because I thought it was so boring.
That's the thing,
As everybody who lives in a market, like a pretty market town anywhere in the country, will say the same thing. You just can't wait to escape because nothing happens here.
Yeah.
All the cool stuff happens in the big city,
But
wherever that might be. London, Sheffield. I mean, I was obsessed with going to Sheffield because I was obsessed with pulp. But now, coming back here and being here at the age I am, and having lived away, you know, I've lived in Sheffield, I've lived in London, I've lived in Rome. Coming back to Bury was just a lovely, lovely thing. And a lot of my old friends who I've known since I was a teenager still live here. So
I've got
this
nice.
Real tight-knit group of friends here, and we hang out together all the time, and all the bands are friends, and there's a great little music scene here now,
cool.
which didn't exist in the 90s, you know.
Which is why you wanted to leave.
Yeah, there wasn't a scene now. Bury's just got so much better in the last 10 years. I think it's partly because of house prices and everything going up in Cambridge, and so people are sort of moving further and further out of London, and it's still sort of reasonably close to London.
Yeah.
So it's just, we've got a Nando's now.
You've got all the mod cons.
Got all the mod cons. Don't have a sushi bar yet.
I spotted a Debenhams.
We've always had a Debenhams.
But that's standard, isn't it?
Did you see how space age it is though?
Yeah, it looked like it looked like a brand new glass.
Yeah, sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it doesn't really suit the quaint town, does it? So did you keep in touch with all of your friends from school?
They're not school friends. They're just people I met, like going
around.
out. And
okay.
We used to DJ at Chicago Rock Cafe when it existed.
What's it called now? Your Chicago Rock?
What is it called? What is it called? Flex.
Flex.
I
just went past Flex.
Yeah, I haven't been to Flex.
The one in Southend where I'm from was Chicago Rock. Then it became Seymour's. And now
that's such a bad name.
It's terrible, isn't it? And now it's got worse with the next name. The next name is Dick Devines.
Really?
Yep. Dick Devines. That one's not caught on. A lot of people are still calling it Seymour's.
Do they say let's go to Dick's then?
No, they don't. You see, I think that's why.
I'm really missing a trick.
That's why. Yeah, I don't know why it hasn't caught on for some reason. It's got Dick Devines, this character who owns it, he looks like Lovejoy.
Amazing.
And
I want to go.
It's one of the worst places you've been to.
I definitely.
I mean, it's just a very general satellite town kind of. They play Living on the Prairie every other song. You know, that kind of place. But yeah, everyone calls that Seymour's. But now that you're back, the thing I find strange about going back to my hometown is seeing people in the school uniform I used to wear from my old school. That's the thing I find strangest about going back. Have you found it strange at all coming back? Or?
Not really, because I feel like I kind of never left because I was always coming back, and my mum's always lived here. She's never moved away. So I was always coming back to see her, always coming back to see my best friend. So I've just watched it grow. It's not like I had a big gap. And then suddenly came back and it was like going back in time or something. It just doesn't feel like that. Yeah. But I know what you mean about the school uniform stuff. Like, it's really quite odd.
I think it's hardwired in you to...
Did I look like that?
Yeah, and think, do I know them? They go to my school.
No, they don't.
No, they weren't born when I was...
They're 25 years younger than me.
Yeah. So you... most people, I imagine, think you are from Sheffield.
Yes.
Do you find that? Do people say
yes.
Oh, you're from Sheffield, right?
Yes, because of the Long Blondes being a Sheffield band. And I'm very fond of Sheffield. I still sort of feel like a part of that city.
Yeah.
Because I was there for 10 years. If I go back to Sheffield, which I've been trying to do more often actually, immediately I get a little northern twang coming again. Yeah, which I obviously developed when I was over there.
Yeah, sure.
I'd come back from Sheffield and people say, "Oh, you sound really northern," and I was like, "No, I don't," because when I go to Sheffield, everyone says I sound really posh and southern. So, but I definitely did develop a twang while I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really nice going back up to Sheffield now.
It's a great town, isn't it, Sheffield? So you moved there because of your love for pulp?
I did.
Wow,
yes.
That's a commitment to a band, isn't it?
I know. I was offered. I was thinking about this the other day. I was offered a 2E unconditional place to go to UCL to read history, and I turned it down to go to Sheffield.
Sure, no, yes. I'm going to Sheffield.
always the rebel.
Presumably you've never regretted that though, because paved the way for everything.
Absolutely, and Sheffield is such a great breeding ground for bands. Much more, I think it's better than London anyway, because as a fledgling band in Sheffield, you're just given this sort of opportunity to kind of grow in an area or a part of the country which has close proximity to all the places that matter. Yeah. So if you start off in Sheffield, you played like local club nights in Sheffield or whatever, you can easily go to Manchester, Nottingham, Leeds, Liverpool, everything's on your doorstep. So then eventually London will come to you. And that's what we worked out with the Long Blondes. It was like, no, we'll just keep playing in Sheffield and keep playing around here, we'll branch out slowly and then we'll go to London when they're ready, when they want us. But I think we were quite lucky as well with the timing of everything. We just happened to be a band at that point in time when the Arctic Monkeys were just sort of hitting, and the NME were obsessed with coming up to Sheffield and creating this New Yorkshire scene. Yeah. I remember doing a photo shoot in the Lead Mill with all these New Yorkshire bands. I mean, none of us knew each other really. It was all invented. But, I mean, we kind of knew each other to say hi to, but we certainly wouldn't have kind of counted each other as being part of a scene or hung out together or thought we were similar musically or anything like that. It was it was a construct, but it was kind of a useful construct for us at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, probably the highlight of your career, I'm sure you would agree, you were ranked number 7 on the Cool list in NME.
Yep. Absolutely, the highlight of not just my career,
top of your CV.
Probably my life.
Your whole life. Can you remember who was? So you were 7 on the list.
Oh yeah.
Can you remember who was 8? Who was one above you and who was one below you? Can you remember?
I don't remember. I think Beth Ditto was number 1.
Okay, I remember that year.
I do remember that. It was Beth at number 1.
Okay, that's quite a good.
Which is great, and she deserved to be number 1. Yeah. She's by far the coolest person I've ever met.
Yeah, she was.
She's awesome.
Yeah, and that was around the time that the gossip were. Does all of this kind of feel like forever ago now?
Yes.
Oh, does it? It does. Doesn't feel like just yesterday. No, it feels like forever ago.
Although last year I hadn't seen all of the Long Blondes in one space, in one room at the same time, since we split up, since 2008. And last year we met up for the first time and we went to the pub in Sheffield that we used to sort of have all our band meetings in, the Rutland. And I thought that was going to be really odd. I thought it would just feel like so much time had passed and we were completely different people and we had nothing in common anymore and it would just feel ages ago. But it was just the same.
Was it?
Yeah. Everybody was telling the same stories, same jokes, same sense of humour. Everybody looked the same, wearing kind of similar clothes. Yeah. You know? It's just like no time had passed.
But did anyone spot you?
Well, sitting there.
Say, no one came over and said, "Guys, you're the Long Blondes, aren't you?"
One person, yeah.
Really? Did they?
Yeah.
Amazing. Did they get excited? They thought you're getting back together.
Yeah. Well, then we took photos of us all sitting around in the Rutland and we'd had lots of comments saying, "Just reform."
Right, okay.
Just announce it already. And we had no intention of...
You were just having
Yeah, we were just meeting up. We might have done it, because this year's actually 10 years since Someone's Drive You Home came out.
Right.
Which I can't believe. It's
wow.
10 years. So we did talk about maybe doing some shows this year, just to mark that as an anniversary, but I mean, it's impossible really because everyone's so busy. Everyone's got their own lives now and jobs, you know, and families and things that we didn't have 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
it would have been too difficult, I think, to do it justice. And if we were going to do it, we wanted to do it with all 5 of us, and we wanted to do it properly.
You could do it, just do it on the 20 years. Wait another 10.
Yeah, we'll wait till we're all like 65, and then we'll do it. That'll be weird.
Would you remember the songs now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'd all?
Yeah, it's just
in you.
Yeah, I actually had a little go because I thought I was doing vocal warm-ups the other day in here because we had a gig on Friday night, and I thought Thursday afternoon I work upstairs, so I've got an art studio upstairs anyway, so it's all very handy, this building for me. It kind of encompasses all my creative needs in one place. So I came down here in the afternoon when there was nobody about, and I just thought, just do some vocal warm-ups, I'll sing some of my songs, you know, new stuff. And I was like, kind of bored of singing this one. I'll just sing some long blondes, and it was really nice.
What did you sing? What was your go-to one?
Giddy Stratosphere.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Just to see if I could still do it. And I can.
Great, because now that you've got the solo record coming out, people are not that you're necessarily going to feel obliged to do it, but people will be shouting out for those songs, won't they? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. We might get that a bit. We haven't had that so far.
Okay.
But I mean, I wouldn't want to do that because
No.
this band is a completely different kind of thing. It's a completely different sound, and I can't imagine playing those songs without those 5 people.
Playing them, yeah.
It just wouldn't sound right. It would sound like somebody trying to sound like the Long Blondes. You know, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I was in the Long Blondes. Why would I want to do that?
I can't. You were saying like it's 10 years since the record came out, which is suddenly forever ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was thinking that just on the terms that you split up in 2008, and that seems like forever ago as well.
It does,
that kind of what do you kind of remember from that? Because it was a really sad end. Obviously, it was a really sad and forced ending.
Yeah, it was very. Like you say, it's just forced and horrible in the way that it happened because of what happened to Dorian. I don't remember much about that kind of immediate period of time. It's just a bit of a blur now because everyone was so gutted about Dorian, and our only concern was he going to live really to begin with, because we didn't know. It was that bad. And then just visiting him in hospital. So the band just kind of took a back seat to whether Dorian was going to be all right or not. And it soon became apparent that he wasn't going to recover, certainly wasn't going to recover in time for us to fulfil our summer festival programme. So that got scrapped. That was the first thing that went. And then it was obviously that he wasn't going to recover in time to play the autumn shows. And then. So in the end, we had to make a decision on it. And we decided to call it a day.
Was that something that you did sit down and make that call on? It wasn't something that you just never just drifted away?
No, we all sat down together with Dorian, and it was Dorian's decision that happened. It was very sad.
And then you moved to... Did you move to... So you moved to Rome?
I moved to London first.
Okay.
And I started writing with Bernard. That was the first thing that happened. And at the time, I was still signed to Rough Trade with the Long Blondes. It was before... I guess it was before we sort of got dropped from the label as the band. So I was still communicating with Jeff and Jeanette at Rough Trade, and they were very keen for me to kind of carry on and try and write a solo album with somebody else. So lots of names were bandied around about that, and I said, no, I want to write with Bernard.
Did you? He was your go-to guy.
Of course, I mean, Suede were my favourite band as a teenager, and I knew that Jeff and Jeanette managed Bernard because I'd met him before anyway. I'd met him at a gig. We'd met at an after-show party for do you remember the 1990s?
Yeah.
They were also on Rough Trade at the same time as us.
Because you sang on the record. He produced their
second record, and I sang on the second record.
Right.
And so we were at this after-show party together, and we got on really well. So I knew that it would be cool, you know, if we could write together. And I love his guitar sound anyway. Yeah. I think the guy's a genius. And to my amazement, he sent me an email saying yes. He'd be up for it, and
he was. We had him in the magazine last year, and he gave a great interview. I didn't do it myself, but
he's a very funny man.
He came across as very funny and quite straight talking.
Yeah,
is that yes, about right? That sums him up.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
He's got a very dry sense of humour.
Yeah. He's.
You don't mess with Bernard.
No. I got that feeling. I think Sam, who did the interview, I think they got on well. He's a big Suede fan and a big fan of...
He's lovely, but he'll tease you.
Yeah, okay. So you started working... So that was So that was when you met Bernard in 2008?
2008, yeah,
Okay.
I met Bernard. And then we did some writing together, and we wrote a few of the songs that have ended up on the album as demos. And then one thing or another happened, and I wasn't on Rough Trade anymore. And then it was like, I've got to find a label for these demos. And I thought it would be easy. I really did. I was so naive at the time. I just thought, well, it's fine. I can do this. And then everything just kind of unravelled with the music industry. Everything changed.
It did, yeah.
Around that time.
Yeah.
And suddenly...
It was like the bubble had burst all of a sudden.
Suddenly, like, no labels were signing anything, at all. I mean, nobody wanted to take a risk on it. So it just got left.
Right.
And then, I had a few sort of false starts with trying to get things released, but it was so difficult. And I was becoming increasingly disillusioned with all of that and didn't know whether I wanted to carry on doing music. And I'd always wanted to do art. I went to art school, and I felt during the Long Blondes I just didn't have time to kind of pursue that as an interest, as a creative interest. Even though I wanted to, I was kind of constantly taking photos thinking, one day I'll get to use these as source material for my paintings when I do it. And I hadn't done it. And it just sort of coincided with me meeting a man and falling in love and all that stuff. And I moved to Rome with him, and it was...
Is he from Rome?
He's from Sicily.
He's from Sicily.
And I moved to Rome and was just in love for 4 years and had a lovely time.
Yeah.
And developed my painting while I was there.
So whilst you're in Rome, so you moved to Rome, could you speak any
Italian?
Italian?
While I was there.
But when you got there, you didn't know?
No.
Are you fluent now?
No.
Are you not? You must be pretty good though.
I can understand, but I'm not. Speaking Italian is so difficult. I never got beyond the stage where you have to translate everything in your head before you say it.
Yeah.
So I just found it really difficult to kind of keep up with conversations and make friends properly in the same way that I have friends here.
Yeah.
So I found that quite challenging, and it, after 4 years, the cracks kind of began to appear.
Really?
With that, yeah.
So what was Rome like as a place to live?
It's beautiful, and it's very slow, actually. The pace of Rome is completely different to the pace of the UK. Everything happens at different times of the day. It was quite hard to get used to that. So the day tends to start a bit later. Everybody goes to work around 10. In the music industry, all the people I knew were kind of Roman music industry people, so they were booking agents and label bosses and journalists and artists and people like that. So they all start at like 10. They have lunch at about 2, 3, and then work until 9, 10 at night, and then go out for dinner. And we used to stay out every night, so we'd stay up, we'd have dinner, and then either go home and just stay up till 2 in the morning watching TV, or go for a cocktail and stay out. And it's completely different to here. When I used to bring Pietro over here, we'd be like, all right, we need to go for dinner, and it would be sort of 9:30 in Bury St Edmunds, and all the restaurants had like stopped serving food because it was after 8:30. He just could not believe it. It was like, in Italy, you wouldn't even be open yet,
Yeah.
So that sort of thing is quite different. But I had a very, relaxed life there in terms of, I'd spend the mornings kind of walking around and exploring the city, and then I'd go back to our flat in the afternoon and just work on my drawing and develop my drawing style and painting style, and then cook some food for Pietro. And it was very nice.
It sounds very nice. This sounds like a very idyllic life that I would like to sign up to.
I know, but...
Go on. Yeah.
But I was bored.
Were you?
Yes.
At what point did you go? You were there for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So at what point did you think, I can't do this forever?
Probably not till the last year.
Okay. So 3 years is a good...
But
3
for the
years
first
you're there.
3 years, for the first 2 years, certainly, I wasn't there all the time. I was coming back to England often. And it was only the last couple of years that I was there most of the time. And it was then when England gets further and further away. And what you consider to be the life you'd imagine for yourself as a child is suddenly just not there. And you haven't got any of the safety nets that you have at home. Things like the NHS, things like your family networks, your friendship networks, just familiar things like the colours of England, the seasonal changes. Oh my God, I would cry at, news footage of the Queen on the telly.
I mean, I cry at that.
I bet you do. So do I now, but not for the same reasons. But at the time, I was like, the national anthem,
You became like really patriotic.
Became one of those people.
A real monarchist. Start waving your...
Just not so much that, just it's that nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
Going, oh, that's my country.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that association with Italy, so I just felt like I didn't belong.
Sure.
And I wanted to come back and feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
And it was so hard. It was the hardest decision I've ever made in my life, was leaving.
Was it?
Yes.
Do you miss it now?
I do miss it, but I don't regret leaving.
You miss the coffee?
I miss the coffee, so I now have Italian coffee on the go all the time here.
And you
I
miss...
miss the food.
You miss the food.
The food.
What about the ice cream?
The gelato.
That's what I'd miss the most, I think.
Yeah, there was this amazing ice cream place just around the corner from our flat called Fata Morgana.
Okay.
And then the flavours that they do, like licorice, fennel and honey, you know.
Yeah, you see, you're not going to get that in
Unbelievable.
Iceland.
No.
In the freezer section of Iceland, you're going to get the walls.
But I do like a bit of mint choc chip, so it's not
that's
bad,
fine.
you know. I get that.
Oh, you're fine. You can get that here. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
So
But also, like, the climate there, it's so hot. And I don't function well in the heat. I think I'd do better somewhere like Germany or Sweden, which is more similar to an English climate, because anything above 25 degrees and I don't want to leave the house.
Right.
And it's like that about 8 months of the year in Rome, so I struggled.
Yeah, okay. I'm surprised you did 4 years.
I know.
By the sound of it, you did very well to stay for as long as you did. And you were painting. You were working on paintings, but specific paintings around architecture.
Yeah.
Architectural paintings. Is that something that you? I mean, how does?
I think I've kind of developed a love of brutalist architecture and concrete from living in Sheffield, actually. I've tried to sort of trace it back, and I think that's probably where it comes from, because when I first moved to Sheffield, everything was concrete, and it's been regenerated a little bit now, so less so, but it's a concrete city.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the sort of clean, sharp lines, and I like how...
You would have loved my university.
Which university do you go to?
Brunel University.
Yes, I've been there, and it's amazing. It's on my list of things to photograph.
It's very brutal.
It is, yeah. It's a bit like the UEA as well at Norwich, and that's amazing. So that's something out of Logan's Run. But I just like how kind of retro-futuristic the brutalist architectural style is, and how sculptural those buildings are in the landscape. So I just... and it also, concrete has many, many textures and many, many different colours depending on the way that the light falls on it.
Yeah. And
I just find that beautiful, and not many people look at it that way and appreciate it. So I think my artwork's kind of all about slowing down and pacing your life in a different way, and actually seeing things rather than just going past things without looking at them. And surely that's sort of what all art is about. So yeah, the first one I did, it was actually it was a building from a photograph I took in Berlin when we were on tour, and I just looked at it and thought, well, actually, that's really aesthetically pleasing to me, and I'll carry on. I'll just do sort of outline drawings. I did sort of pen and ink outline drawings of buildings to begin with, and then started blocking the colours in, and then just developed the technique that I have now, which is I use straight edge tape to make these very, very clean lines, and I layer up the acrylic to make it almost look like a screen print, but it's not. They're textural paintings on MDF board.
Because the album cover is one of your paintings.
Yes.
And you've done a series, is that right?
Yes.
For when you're doing the singles and.
Yeah, I've done a series of road paintings, so like concrete flyovers, which in my mind kind of are the same thing as brutalist architecture.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're brutal, but they're within the landscape. They're sort of part of our everyday environment, part of our everyday. Just the view that you see from your car windscreen, and have done since you were 4 or 5 years old, so it's in your psyche. But no one draws it, no one paints it. So I thought I'll incorporate that into the aesthetic of the album. I used to see my artwork and my music as being quite separate things, but actually I've come to kind of realise that all the themes I'm dealing with lyrically and visually are coming from the same place. And it's one of sort of looking at England in a slightly different way, almost voyeuristically, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that is the central kind of concept of the record, isn't it? Which is called British Road Movies. And well, I'll let you explain the concept, just in case I really get it wrong.
You won't get it wrong. But yeah, I was toying with the lyrics. This is sort of retrospectively, because I wrote quite a lot of these songs a few years ago with Bernard. And I was trying to sort of think of a title to put it all together, and thinking, what is the central concern of this album? And lots of the songs are about searching for home and belonging. Lots of the songs are about journeying and transience and just looking at the landscape in a certain way. And I thought, well, in America has road movies as a genre, but we don't really have that here.
No.
There isn't such a thing as British road movies. And I like the fact that these songs are quite cinematic and big because of, you know, Bernard's writing style, my lyrics, Bernard's production. They do have this sort of very cinematic element to them. So that these songs could almost be individual narratives for short films. And that's where it came from, the idea to have British road movies rather than American road movies.
Yeah, I love that. Because there's my friend Greg, who works with me on Loud and Quiet, he is currently in the States. He's doing a little road trip on his honeymoon. Mm-hmm. And I made him a mixtape before he went of road songs. And but they're all kind of American artists singing like those classic American.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pretty cheesy mixtape, to be honest. But they're like, but we don't really kind of artists. Just as there aren't any British road movies, there aren't really any British road songs, are there?
No.
We don't really write songs.
National Express. That's it, isn't it?
That's about it. But have you road tested the record in a car?
Yeah, I have. Of course I have.
I was listening. It works.
It works in the car so well.
It really works. I was listening to it on my way here in the car, and I'm glad you've done that. Jason Pierce from Spiritualized apparently does it with every record.
I think it's a really important thing to do. Bernard Butler does it as well.
Really?
Yeah, with every record that he's produced. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. If he's worked on the production, he will take that into the car and drive around London. And
see if it works or not. Because that's where you have such a kind of different relationship with music in a car, I think.
I think it, like, when you've made a record, it's really important to listen to it in various different contexts. So, you do the loud and quiet test in the studio, and you do the good speakers and the rubbishy little iPhone speakers. But then something like burning it onto a CD and just having it on the background at a party.
Yeah.
Does it work in that situation?
Yeah.
Yes. And then putting it into the car and just going for a drive and seeing which landscapes fit the record best. I'm all over stuff like that.
Yeah. What do you when you're not listening to your own record in the car?
I don't always listen to my own record in the car.
There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't do it forever.
I've done it maybe twice.
What do you listen to? Do you have because I've probably got like 3 things that I'll always turn to in the car.
Yeah, me too.
What are yours?
Mine, accompanying the Suffolk landscape, Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin
goes so well with Suffolk. So if you ever have a chance to do a road trip and you're driving, say, from London up to Cambridge and then across the A14, turn off the A14, go on some of the B roads through the countryside and put Led Zeppelin on.
Put Led Zeppelin on.
My favourite is Led Zeppelin 3 for that, but any of them work.
Okay.
Physical Graffiti's better when you're getting towards dusk, I have to say.
Okay. Good these are great tips.
I know. Also love a bit of Neil Young in the car.
Yeah. That's classic driving music. Yeah.
And what else? Nick Cave.
So Nick Cave's an interesting one because the Nick Cave movie, it kind of inspired you a bit, right?
It did. I came back from Rome in 2014, and I just didn't really know what to do. I had no intention of going back to music at that point because I was so sort of focused on doing artwork. But I came back and I had no money, I had nowhere to live, I had no job, I didn't have the client bases here that I needed to sort of make a living out of music, out of artwork, and certainly not out of music. So I just thought, I'll just get a job anywhere. So I ended up working in a retailer. That's not so good. Well-known high street retailer for a good year. And it took sort of 6 months to kind of figure out what I wanted to do again. And I went on holiday. I went to Devon, and while I was on holiday, it was a walking holiday, as I really, really love walking. And while I was on holiday, the Nick Cave film 20,000 Days on Earth happened to be showing, and he was doing the sort of live Q&A afterwards. From the Barbican? Or
yeah, it was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I got tickets, and we drove to Taunton, which was the closest cinema showing the Nick Cave film from where we were. So we drove for an hour and a half to get there, and it was a big event sort of mentally for me because I love Nick Cave so much anyway. And just watching that film and watching the way that he interacts with Warren Ellis and the rest of the Bad Seeds in a kind of in a room like this, obviously a nicer room, but
I don't believe that for an instance.
In a room, in a writing room, in a practice room, the way that he brings songs, he brings the lyrics to the band, and they just sort of work it out together. And it's not like jamming because they're jamming in a structured way, and I don't approve of jamming particularly.
No.
No, they're jamming with a purpose. They know exactly what they're doing, and they can all kind of read off each other. I just thought that's what I want to do. That's what I miss. And I had that a little bit with Bernard in the writing space, obviously, but it was still just the two of us making a studio album, and that's fine. You can hear that, but it's not like Bernard and I are going to play these songs together live and have a touring band. So I just thought I've got to put a band together again and start again. Like, it's obvious. So I came out of that film, just drove back to where we were staying. I was just like, I'm going to do music again.
That's it.
That was it.
And you are.
And I am, and here we are.
Well, what's it like the second time round?
Better than the first.
Is it?
Yeah, it feels good, actually.
In what sense? Is it because
not because it's better than the Long Blondes. It's because I've done it before and I understand it and I've made loads of mistakes and I feel like I know what I'm doing a bit more now, which I didn't. We were all completely blind, I think, when we went into the Long Blondes. We had no idea what we were doing, and that was great, but we did make some mistakes, I think.
Does it change your expectations as well?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I obviously thought we were going to make millions out of the Long Blondes.
I thought we were going to make millions out of my band.
Yeah.
I think that's good. That's healthy.
Yeah.
That's what
I'd be
fools
happy
you.
with a couple of grand.
I'll be happy with some free merch and expenses paid.
Definitely.
That'd do.
Yeah, with some flights and a nice rider. No, but you know what I mean. It does level your expectations when you make mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
For sure. You kind of go, okay. No, it's not easy. It's not a glamorous job. It's not like anything that you expect it's going to be. It's really hard work.
Yeah.
But it is still the best job in the world, and nothing excites me as much. Nothing gives me the buzz. Even my artwork, I love doing that. I love having exhibitions, but it's not the same as getting up on stage and performing a song. It's just not. So I'm really excited.
This might put you in a tricky position, actually. But on the local scene here in Bury St Edmunds, have you got any tips for us? Who should we be checking out?
The Machismos.
The Machismos?
Yeah, they're brilliant. Do you remember a band called Jacob's Mouse from the 90s? It's a guy called Sam Marsh. They actually toured with Nirvana, Jacob's Mouse. They were one of those bands that should have made it in the grunge scene, but just missed it somehow.
Because Britpop turned up.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
flattened it.
Sam's been fuming about that ever since. He hates that job. It's a cocker. But yeah, they actually, the album they've written as the Machismos was originally written in the 90s, and it's Sam and his wife Rachel. And he decided a couple of years ago, kind of similar to me really, that he wanted to kind of do music again, and so he put the Machismos together with a girl called Carly on guitar. So there's them. There's a band called Horse Party, and two of my band, Wrong Moves, are in Horse Party as well. It's quite incestuous.
Yeah, I like the name Horse Party already. I'm kind of already sold on Horse Party, to be honest.
Horse Party are brilliant. They're just lovely. And it's Shannon who plays drums for me. She plays drums for Horse Party. Quigley, who plays guitar for me, also plays guitar for Horse Party. And then a lovely girl called Catherine Lindley Nielsen, and Ellie Langley is the singer and songwriter. They're really good. Who else? The Wilsons.
The Wilsons?
Yes, the Wilsons.
The Wilsons are a band who play country music.
They are.
Are they?
How do you know?
Are they really?
Yes, they are.
I just went on the name of that one. Because the Wilsons sound like a kind of country family band.
They are.
Vibe.
That's exactly what they are.
Amazing.
Country Americana, but with lyrics about sex and death.
That is a band name that has totally done its job there.
Totally done its job.
Because I've never heard of the Wilsons, you just said them, and I know them.
Yeah, well, I'm in the Wilsons.
You're in the Wilsons?
Yeah, I'm the backing vocalist for the Wilsons.
Amazing.
This is how incestuous Bury is.
Okay. You're not allowed to be in one band.
You can't just be in one band in Bury. So I was
like,
like, oh, everyone else is in two bands, maybe three. I better get in another band.
excellent. I'm going to check those out.
Yeah, please do.
Awesome.
I'd love it if you did. I'd love it. It would be so nice if, by doing some of this myself, by getting a bit more exposure for my album, I can then give some of these other bands a bit more exposure, because they definitely deserve it, and it's so hard to do it from Bury. I think that's one thing that's become apparent. So there is stuff happening here, but no one writes about it, and no one bothers to listen to the bands because they don't, go and tour all over the country. It's very expensive to do that from East Anglia. It's possible to do that from London. It's possible to do that from Sheffield and Leeds and Manchester, but East, no. Yeah, we might get to Peterborough.